and welcome to Tally Talk. I'm Liv.
And I'm Ben.
And on this episode, you'll hear our carefully considered and not at all random thoughts on a show we like. There will be spoilers.
We're giving ourselves an age rating of 15 and above, but you're welcome to make up your own mind. Listener discretion is advised.
If you get a chance, please do rate, review and subscribe. We really appreciate it.
It really helps us grow. And if you want to reach out to us, you can contact us on our socials. We're on Blue Sky at TeleTalkPod. We have a Facebook page, TeleTalkPod. And you can email us, teletalkpod@outlook.com. We'd be really interested to hear what you have to say about the show.
So, this episode, we are covering our reactions to Death in Paradise, Season 14, Episode 2.
It's paradise where there's death.
Thanks.
I had a lot to say.
How insightful. Okay. I was more hoping you'd go with an episode description, like an official one. Okay.
I have an episode description, y'all.
That's great.
A mystery unravels in the jungle when a game show contestant is stabbed on a zip line of all places. Meanwhile, the team butt heads with Mervin. That's D.I. Mervin Wilson.
The new one.
Yes.
We also have another new character this episode.
They're coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah, we have Officer Sebastian Rose.
Seb Rose.
Yeah, and we first meet him dressed as a pineapple.
Yeah, and D.I. Wilson really lets that go, doesn't he?
I know. He is not impressed.
He's a jittery little...
He's a jittery pineapple.
He is a jittery pineapple, yes.
He has what he describes as a fidgety brain.
Yes. So I'm chalking that up as we have our first officially neurodiverse member of the...
Well, but it's not official, is it?
Well,
So...
if you come on and say I've got a fidgety brain, it's basically it. Although, I mean, you know, you examine any of the DIs at any length, and that's a rock you can't unturn.
Yeah, but we see him. I quite like him. What do you think?
I have the same reaction I have to the new DIs. Like, I'm hoping that he'll settle down a bit. He's already had a decent amount of character establishment in this one episode, so that was quite nice.
Yeah.
I was really worried that they were just going to have him be a bit inept, and that was going to be the thing.
Well, I mean, to an extent, like, he's undergone training, he's passed all the exams, he is qualified.
What, Pineapple Boy?
Yeah. He's just working as a pineapple because it wasn't a police role.
Those are the two natural Venn diagrams of people that do police training. If you don't get to be the police person, you become a pineapple trying to persuade people to go to a juice bar.
I will say, though, that his character and his eccentricities that we've already seen are now showing me why D.I. Wilson is more sedate and grumpy and all the things that I moaned about being the same as Neville last episode. We now see a contrast with the other new character.
Yeah, it does feel like they've brought him into Offset.
Yeah, they couldn't have two come in similar. We've got opposite ends of the spectrum.
That's true.
Now.
Yeah, especially with losing like Marlon and Dwayne.
Yeah.
You need that energy.
Yeah, I really like Marlon.
Yeah, I do miss Marlon.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't know Benjamin Bryce for long, but I'm sure he'd have been fun.
No, but I did really like him. They did a really good job with that.
Is it wrong that my immediate gut concern was, are they going to kill this guy off as well? Are they just going to go a whole season where they just kill off the new recruit every episode? I was like, I mean, to be fair, that would be a bold statement.
Yeah. Luckily, he does survive. He is not our victim this time.
Spoilers! So the start-up of the episode is that a game show, a television game show, is being filmed on the island. It's called Island Warrior, and it pits two finalists essentially running a obstacle course gauntlet to try and get to a golden key. And there's a man and a woman, and the woman is out in the lead, and the man eventually wins after she trips and hurts her ankle.
Well, I just want to say at this point that the opening scene is her running madly through the woods. And I thought she was being chased, and I thought she was running for her life.
Which she sort of was, but not in the way that we thought.
Yeah, definitely not in the way that I thought.
Are you trying to say that they set us up to be misunderstood the situation?
Well, I definitely misunderstood the situation. I can't speak for everyone.
Oh. Yeah, they bucked to that particular trope. But yeah, the fella that wins...
Yeah.
He is to be our victim.
Yes.
And he goes and takes off his backpack and then runs over to this giant zip line.
Did the key unlock something?
I think the key unlocked the door to the zip line. It was unclear.
That really did. Yeah, it didn't play a big part.
events occur that render the key somewhat meaningless.
Yeah.
Our soon-to-be corpse gets onto the zipline. He's well pleased. He's whooping and cheering.
Yeah, we see him flying through the sky.
Yeah, and you've seen that he's got a knee brace on and everything.
And we've got the drone pilots ready to film him as he moves through the trees and the jungle.
Yeah, and he ziplines down, and there's a point in the zipline. It's a really long zipline, and he gets obscured for a portion of the zipline run.
For about 40 minutes. He
40 seconds. It's not that long. That'd be a hell of a zipline.
All right. So for 40 seconds, he goes out of view of all the cameras, including the drone.
Yes. And then we get to see the remote camera that's at the bottom of the zipline, because heaven forbid they have any staff at the bottom.
I know. Why wasn't anyone there?
Narrative convenience, that's why I live. Because the drone cameraman has now switched to this remote view, and they see a limp corpse scoot down the end of the zipline and hang there.
He sort of crashes into the platform, doesn't he?
Yeah, all droopy.
Yeah.
And then they astutely go, I think something's wrong.
Yeah, and they all run to him, and then the remote camera picks up everyone arriving to come and see what's up.
Yeah, and they cut as soon as you see anyone. And it's interesting because the first thing that I noticed was that the contestant that he was competing against, we see earlier, like sprains her ankle or really hurts her ankle, and that's why she doesn't win.
Yeah.
And she arrives at the same time as everyone else, and I was like, ooh, I bet that comes up.
I didn't notice her, to be fair.
I was 50-50 as to whether it was going to be plot hole or a telling
Plot
thing.
point.
Plot point. Plot hole, plot point.
Who knows?
So that's how it's set up.
Yeah, and I just wanted to note that when she falls and is injured, the guy, the other contestant who sort of takes over, he sort of stops to check that she's okay, and she says, no, go on, go win it. And I thought, oh, that was actually quite nice for contestants.
Yeah, they seem to actually get on.
Yeah.
And we also see there's a lot of like sort of context setting where we see interactions between some of the staff, the producer of the show acting like a bell end.
Yeah.
And there's a runner running around and offering to drive, and then there's
generally being taken advantage of.
Yes, the cameraman, drone pilot, Dale, doesn't get on with the producer.
Yeah, I don't think anyone gets on with the producer.
It's another episode in Everyone's a Bell End. And so there's a lot going on, and you sort of get a vibe for it. It's possibly a bit of a dysfunctional set and everything. So that's the setup for the premise of this episode is, how does a man get murdered in the treetops while ziplining down with only a 40-second window and no one nearby?
Yeah.
It's sort of like a locked room mystery, except it's a unlocked zipline in the sky mystery.
Absolutely. So, as you've mentioned, our victim is this other contestant. His name is Johnny. He is a white British man.
As all men called Johnny are.
And he wants to win because he wants to donate his winnings to charity. He's learnt to run marathons. He's done loads over the years. He's won loads. And every time he wins, he donates his winnings to a cancer charity.
It's a very quick and easy way for the producers of the show to go, look, see, he's a nice guy.
Yeah, well, I thought, is he really this nice?
Oh, you thought he was going to be revealed and unmasked as a not nice person.
Yeah, I thought, is there more to him? Is there more going on? Is this going to be the crux of it?
Oh, we live in a cynical world.
I can hear Bryn in you there.
Check out our retrospective recaps on Gavin and Stacey, also available on this feed.
Wow.
Pluggity plug.
Okay, so then we move to our suspects.
There's 4 this time, more than the 3 that you were disappointed in.
Yes. Yep. So we have the fellow contestant, who we've already spoken about. We have the runner. As we say runner, we mean showrunner, yeah.
General Dog's Body and assistant, the lowest level of the staff on the thing, and she's called Lisa.
Yeah. We have the producer, who's busy, authoritarian, brash.
And a bell end.
And we have the cameraman / drone pilot.
He's Dale, and he is a tech guy. This will go well.
Yeah, and I feel like when we're introduced to them all that he comes across as fairly innocuous. He's almost like the grey man.
Yeah, I feel like the actor playing him is much more physically attractive than they intended when they wrote this character.
Oh, right.
He looks too athletic. He looks too traditionally handsome to be the classic nerdster that he is written as.
Okay.
I have a chip on my shoulder about this character. It's going to come up a few times, I think.
Okay. So those are our suspects and that's our victim.
Yeah.
Did you have any other feelings about any of the other suspects that we meet?
Well, I didn't like Rick. They were really playing him up.
producer.
Yeah, they were playing him up to get comeuppance at some point for something. Like, you were meant to not like him, I don't think. Unless whoever wrote the show just doesn't like producers, which is entirely possible.
I don't think he was necessarily that bad. I felt like he was very stressed because when the police start interviewing him, his phone is ringing and it's this really shrill, annoying ringtone, and he cancels it and he cancels it and he cancels it, and eventually he goes, look, they're gonna keep ringing. Can this be it? Can I go and...
Well, you're putting that in a tone that was not as pissy as he was giving it in.
But that's how I took it. He was a man under a lot of stress. His whole show has just fallen apart.
So, Liv, just so I can be clear,
Yeah.
when we heard about the man who incessantly raises money for charity, you were like, I am suspicious of this man. The fella that delivers all of his lines in the whinging piss baby tone, you were like,
Yeah.
I don't know, give this guy a chance, he might be alright.
Yeah. Oh dear. Yeah.
I'm not saying it's wrong. I just wanted to make sure that that was what you were doing.
Okay. Well, you've really held a mirror up to me there.
You're welcome.
Let's move on to the means.
So we're going to go through, like we usually do with these, the means, the motive, and opportunity. The means is quite broad here. It's basically they find a survival knife at the bottom of a tree, exactly.
Well, hang on. First of all, they discover that the body that they have has been stabbed.
Oh, yes, he's been stabbed. Yeah. Sorry, I thought I'd said that earlier. And so they find a knife at the base of one of the big tall trees, and there's scuffing.
Yeah, within that section that wasn't visible to camera.
Yeah, so there's scuffing around the bottom of the tree. There's a knife on the ground that matches the stab wound in the guy.
Well, it's covered in blood, isn't it?
It's also subtly covered in blood. And they also find underneath it what they believe to be, initially they thought it was a pearl from a necklace, but then they changed their mind to be a pearl earring.
Yeah.
There's a big question about what it is.
Yeah. So, really, anyone could buy a knife.
Do you have an arm? Can you stab a person? Technically, you have the means.
Yeah. So that does nothing. That doesn't rule anyone in, and it doesn't rule anyone out.
How helpful for us. To be fair, D.I. Wilson immediately has his sort of D.I. senses tingling. And he goes, there's something suspicious. This was too easy to find. Does it feel like we're being set up here?
Yeah, and then, I don't know to say it now or later, but when they run the prints on the knife, it's been wiped clean.
Dun dun dun!
So it hasn't just dropped out of someone's pocket upon their descent from the tree.
Yes, he points out, like, why would someone be so meticulous as to wipe it clean, but then careless enough to drop it at the bottom of said tree?
Yeah, and actually, we probably should have mentioned this under suspects, but the 4 that we have are the only 4 people involved in the show that didn't have an alibi.
Yeah.
Everyone else has a strong alibi.
And presumably, they haven't said it, but presumably they've ruled out, again, literally everyone else in the world. They must have been absolutely certain that there was no one in the vicinity. There's no intruder, no passerby, no bear with the ability to use opposable thumbs.
But why would a bear stab him? And this brings us nicely onto motive.
That's true. Bears traditionally don't stab them. Also, I guess it's sort of bleeding over into opportunity because there aren't even bears in San Marie. You're going to cut that, aren't you?
Yeah. So we have the other contestant. She doesn't really have a motive. She liked Johnny, they got on.
She's the first one that they sort of start looking at in the show, and so there's this sort of like tentative idea because it becomes really apparent that she's faking her ankle injury. They get this footage showing her getting out of her Jeep, and she forgets that she's supposed to be hurt and walks on it and then remembers. So there's a bit of a suspicion of like, oh, maybe she was in on it and she made him be the first one to win so that he'd be there to be set up. But they eventually find out that she was paid by the producer to throw the show.
Yes, which still doesn't give a motive.
No.
For the killing.
No, the closest thing you have with that is like maybe she was in on it. But then when you find out that she was paid to throw the show, it sort of casts suspicion. She's sort of discarded quite quickly.
Yeah, she is. We don't really hear much from her after that.
No. That sort of naturally moves us on to looking at Rick, the producer, because that's where the suspicion is then thrown. And he has a little bit more stuff that sticks to him, I think, initially.
Well, they're very interested in why they wanted her to throw it so that our victim would win the show.
He tries to say it's because he feels like he would be a better story than her.
Yeah, Johnny would make a better story. The audience would buy into him more with the whole cancer donation history of being a good person stuff.
And what we quickly find out is actually Johnny had hurt his knee earlier in the process, and it was because safety checks had not been done properly, and so he was threatening to sue the show. And
so actually, did he just want him to win so that he wouldn't sue them?
That was the implication.
Right, okay.
That was the whole, like, oh, he was a better story, was him trying to not tell them about the whole, like, he was going to sue me thing. And then they also find out that there's quite a hefty insurance payout that would be covered if a contestant was murdered on the show, which is a hell of a niche insurance policy, I'll give you.
Well, they were making out like it's a standard insurance policy for game show kind of things.
That's a waiver that you have to read before you sign it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, he plays this down. He's like, I don't care. I don't have a show now. For me, this was all about the show.
My career's in tatters, etc., etc.
So I'm not sure about that motive. Like, it doesn't seem...
No.
viable, unless there's more to it. But I tended to believe him. As you pointed out, I quite like him, so...
Yeah. So, next up, we have Dale, the drone pilot.
/ cameraman?
He's everything. He's the tech guy.
I don't know, he just moves around, doesn't he? Because sometimes he's doing the cameras and sometimes he's just flying the drone. I don't feel like they're necessarily interchangeable.
He's sort of designated nerd boy.
Yeah.
He's basically an incel.
You actually got a bit wound up about this, didn't you?
I found it very annoying, because I was like, oh good, it's a nerdy guy who's also a pervert. Who would have thought? It hit a little bit close to home, if I'm honest. Yeah. Not the pervy bit, the nerdy bit.
Right, okay.
You're misrepresenting my people.
Okay. So we're looking at his motives for this. We find out that he's in love with the showrunner.
Yes.
And he's been trying to talk to her for ages, and he's really struggling. And he ends up spying on her with his drone camera and catches her with our victim, Johnny, in bed together.
A natural progression for all normal, non-pervy tech people, right?
Yeah, well, I think this is why he got so annoyed, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm like, oh wow, that escalated quickly. Yeah. And this thing he goes on about, like, oh, I don't know how to talk to people, so I never managed to get to...
I know, because I was feeling quite sorry for him, and I thought, oh, he just needs a little bit of help to actually talk to people. And then it turns out he's been filming them behind their backs.
Well, yeah.
Or in front of them.
Also, how does no one ever hear these drones? They're not quiet.
Although, isn't it implied that Johnny did hear the drone, and that's why he questions him later?
No, he just walks in on him looking at it on his laptop.
Oh, okay, well, that could have gone better then.
What you've done there is you've been kind of infilled a reason for their lack of, like, to cover over the plot hole there.
Yeah. So I could have fixed that for them if I'd have worked for this show.
Yeah. Once again, trying to make the victim somehow more nefarious. What is your problem with charitable people?
I don't know. Anyway, so he has this footage and he's been trying to hide it from the police, and they find it and they want to know what's up.
And what's up is the victim found out about it, as we said, and was going to tell on him to the show when Rap was done.
Yeah, when it was all finished, all over. So that is quite a strong motive. Probably the strongest one so far.
But it's the more immediate. There's not any real mitigating factors there.
Yeah.
But that then leads the team to go, oh, the showrunner, when we briefly talked to her earlier, didn't mention that she was in a relationship with the victim. We should probably ask her about that.
Yes, so they go and talk to the showrunner, Lisa, and we find out that her motive would be that this whole game show contestant thing was her idea, and she pitched it to the producer 2 years before, and he basically told her, there's no money for this, no one wants to watch it, no, go away. And then went and pitched it himself and got the green light, and they've been filming it in the exact location that she proposed.
The showrunner, it turns out, is responsible for... There's been a general sense that the production is cursed because accidents keep happening, and it's her that's doing it.
Yeah, because she wants to get back at the producer for stealing her idea. So she's been, health and safety nightmare.
And the investigation team have got a lip reader to read the lips of the video, and they know that she had an argument with the victim, Johnny, after they had their intimate times, and they got into an argument because she revealed that she'd been the one sabotaging the show, including his knee.
His knee injury, yeah, because he'd said that was entirely preventable and it was because of negligence, and now he knows it was a deliberate act. He's really angry.
Which also, in theory, takes away the producer's, well, one of the producer's motives.
Absolutely, it does, yeah. And so I'm thinking that her motive, if she were the killer, was self-preservation.
Yeah.
Because she didn't want others to know what she'd been doing.
There's also the good old classic woman scorned trope.
Possibly, but she does seem to, even when they're questioning her, she does seem to have affection for Johnny.
That's true.
Which was at odds with his subsequent murder.
Touche.
Yeah. So those are all our suspects and all of their possible motives.
So really, if we're looking at it in a means, motive and opportunity, so far everyone has the means, in theory. I'd say we've got kind of 2.5 with motive.
But I don't think these are strong motives. Like, murder is a strong reaction.
I would say, out of that, the strongest motive that you've got is pervy tech boy.
Is it, though?
I mean, it's not... None of them feel uber strong, but that's probably the more defined.
I would say it's her, Lisa, the showrunner. I think she's got the strongest motive from what we know so far.
It might just be that I really resent that character.
Yeah. It's just been written all wrong for you.
Yes. So we'll move on to opportunity, which again is where this usually ends up being the tiebreaker.
Yeah.
It's set up that somehow there's only 4 people in the world that could have been there.
Yes, they're married to this idea.
They are. But none of them could possibly have been there in time because there's only a small window in which they could have got there to murder him.
Yeah, so we mentioned earlier that our victim, Johnny, disappeared from sight for 40 seconds. He then arrives at the winner's platform alone at 8:40. And people start to arrive with him at 8:43. Now, this site where they found the knife that we mentioned earlier is a 20-minute walk away from the platform.
Yes. And they do a thing where they get the new officer to run from the platform.
Yeah.
He could do it in 8.5 minutes.
Which is pretty good, isn't it?
Yes, but it's still, as D.I. Wilson says, too slow.
So it seems like at this point no one has any opportunity.
Yeah, we have
This is impossible.
We have the video of them all arriving together, so they all were each other's alibi. It's that classic thing of we have no way of knowing who could have done it.
Yeah, there's a means that everyone can reach. Motive, some tenuous, none of them strong, and opportunity, none of them have.
So yeah, essentially...
What are we going to do?
They all could have done it. Some of them wanted to do it, but none of them could have done it.
Yeah.
So the key evidence that this big reveal hangs on
Yeah.
are the scuffing around the murder area
Yeah, around the base of that tree.
to make it seem like the
Do
tree's
you know
been
what?
climbed.
I don't know why they never climbed to the tree, because I had this theory that he was stabbed mid-air by a knife suspended between 2 trees. And they never bothered to climb the tree to find the wires.
That's true. It's almost like they just didn't think that that was plausible. I know that we both, at some point, voiced the possibility of a poisoned key.
No, it was definitely your thing.
That was when I didn't realise he'd been stabbed.
Yeah.
Poison keys rarely result in stab wounds.
Yeah.
You did point that out to me.
Yeah, and I still liked... I was going for that suspended knife from the treetops thing right until the end.
Yeah.
That's not what happened.
No, it wasn't, spoiler alert. So we've got the crime scene scuffing.
Yeah.
And the survival-style knife found conveniently there.
With the scuffing, yeah.
And wiped clean.
Yeah.
And then this pearl earring necklace thing.
Which looks a bit odd.
Yeah, they've sort of puzzled over it, but it's sort of been like, oh, who knows?
And notably, everyone with pierced ears has hoops in.
Yeah.
There are no pearls.
Yeah, that's true.
So, the solution then. What do we find out?
Well, we find out that it was pervy tech drone boy that did it. And I am full of anger and frustration.
I am full of anger and frustration at how it was actually done, because I think this is highly implausible.
You've seen this show before, right?
I know, and it does require a suspension of disbelief. However, this is ridiculous. So somehow he knows about costume pins, he knows they're really strong and tough and will go through anything, including human skin, and he steals one, and then he stabs the guy, Johnny, through his backpack into his kidney.
Because it turns out we haven't seen it before, but he was helping the showrunner that he fancies put the backpacks on the contestants, and while he stabbed it into the guy, Johnny, the victim, was so full of painkillers from his knee injury that he didn't know he'd been stabbed.
Yeah, and so he does all that running with a pin jabbing in him, and I'm thinking, how can a pin kill a guy?
To be fair, they do show it is quite a hefty pin and a really long one, so it's like a teeny little stiletto dagger.
The implication is that when he takes his backpack off to get on the zip line, he starts to bleed out, and then the pressure from going down the zip line is enough to kill him.
Yes, they did say, like, the pressure on his blood flow from the zip line caused him to bleed out quicker.
But how does Mr. Drone Pilot Cameraman Dude know that he's going to win? Because he doesn't know that the other contestant's going to throw it.
Well, you see, one, his official name is Pervy Tech Bro. And two, he's a tech bro, so he knows everything, right?
This is a massive plot hole.
Yeah, yes, it is. It is a massive plot hole.
So, we also then find out that Pervy Tech
Bro, but I'll allow it.
Pervy Tech Bro is first to the body, and he pulls him onto the platform fully, and with his back to the camera, he secretly and stealthily stabs him.
To be fair, they did say, once the producer said, right, everyone come away, we've got to wait for the medics and stuff, they all turn away, conveniently, and he goes, stab!
Stabby, stab, stab.
Stabby, stab, stab.
And then he runs and hides the knife in the middle of the woods on a 20-minute walk away.
Yeah, they were a bit naughty with some of the continuity here, because I realised that when we'd seen the video from the area where he arrived, and everyone arrived
At the platform.
all we get to see is them arriving.
Yeah.
What we don't get to see is the Pervy Tech Bro putting his back to the camera to block the view, which they said he'd planned ahead of time.
Yeah, because he knew where the cameras were, because he put them there.
My main question here is,
Yeah.
what happened if the victim just keeled over earlier? It was very convenient for him that this guy died midway through a zip line.
And that he was even on the zip line. Still
Yeah.
not happy about that. And the implication is that his motive was he did it to help the runner that he's in love with, Lisa. Because he found out from his footage that the idea was hers, and so then he also wanted to sabotage it. Why you wouldn't go after the producer and instead you kill a contestant, I don't know.
Well, I suspect the implication is that there was a certain amount of jealousy because, she was getting dicked down by the victim.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the jealousy thing.
Yeah. There's nothing more fiery and white hot than an impotent incel's rage.
Well, ultimately it does not help her. So there was no point to this whole thing.
I mean, to be fair, it helps her because Pervy Tech Bro's no longer in her life. That's quite the improvement. And also, what would have happened if his opponent, the victim's opponent, hadn't thrown?
I know.
Because she was winning.
She was going to be on the zip line, and then he would have just what?
Well, I suppose the implication is he was already stabbed by this point, so he'd have just keeled over. And then people would have been like, he's been stabbed by this clothespin. That could only have been one of...
But yeah.
I feel like the whole clothespin thing is a symptom of the show writers being too close to showbiz.
Yeah, because who would even know about those? I don't think
people in showbiz.
Yeah, but I don't think a cameraman would. Would he know about costume pins?
Oh, but the implication is he helps the showrunner out, so he experiences all this, right? Like, he's familiar with backpacks and putting them on people. Sweaty people.
Yeah. I'm still annoyed as well that the police did not search the whole scene. They literally found a few scuff marks around one tree and thought, this is it. There is nowhere else.
Well, and of course... we were led to believe that the place had been cordoned off and everything, but the Pervy Tech Bro had half an hour to just bop around and set the scene and, have a cup of tea and, just like...
How very British.
Well, yeah, it is British people in the Caribbean, didn't you know? But, he had all the time in the world to just go, I'm gonna really set this scene.
Yeah, I know, it was a bit ridiculous.
I'm like, well, it would have been helpful for us to know this ahead of time. This seems like some holes in our theorising.
Yeah, and this is another episode where there was literally no way of knowing who did it, because right at that last moment we found out loads of stuff.
I mean, I had a feeling it was going to be Pervy Tech Bro. Because I guess they sort of tried to set it up that it wasn't by going, you're going to be arrested for the whole pervy filming thing.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't know who had done it, and I'm a bit disappointed.
It did feel a little bit like we were cheated for figuring it out ahead of time.
Knowing everything, I still don't believe that any of those motives were strong enough for murder.
Well, the thing is, people get murdered for all kinds of very trivial things.
I don't like that. No one should murder anyone. That's my hot take.
It's going to be... I don't know how we go ahead with this sort of show if that's going to be your take.
It's going to be fine. So, we have the subplots for this episode, and we've got this on-running part where the commissioner's role is being phased out.
Sad face, because we all love Commissioner Selwyn Patterson.
We do, but actually, this is Don Warrington wanting to move on from the show.
Is it really?
Yeah, he's leaving.
Oh man, I was hoping that they were faking us out. I love Don Warrington.
I know, he's brilliant, isn't he? But I've seen the headlines where he says that he believes the show can definitely go on without him, which is true. I mean, we've lost every other character from the beginning.
Apart from Catherine. Last woman standing. Oh yeah. God, they're not going to kill him off, are they?
I don't know. I assume he's going to retire.
I will only accept him going down fist fighting a tiger or being hit by a meteorite.
What about retirement? Peaceful and happy.
Oh no, he can retire. Just if he dies, it's got to be fist fighting a tiger or meteorite.
Right.
I might accept asteroid.
I don't think they're going to have written that in.
Well, then he'll have to retire.
Okay. And then the other subplot is we have the continuing D.I. Wilson investigating his mum's death.
One positive thing from my perspective is they've managed to make it so that he's at least going to be staying for 3 months, which is a good episode or two's worth of time before they go, oh, is he leaving? Oh no, he's staying. Is he leaving? Oh no, he's staying.
Well, Selwyn already said, well, you might love it and want to stay, so I think they've sort of written that they'll just ignore that 3-month thing.
Yeah, I was just like, oh god, they're going to do it again. Yeah. Is he going to... Also, 3 months. How many murders are there going to be in those 3 months? He's surely... With another, 4 or 5 or 6 episodes to go this season, they're not going to fit them all in that 3-month period. How dangerous is Sam Marie?
Well, that is true. That is true.
So I'm seeing yet more contractual hijinks, and we all love a good contractual hijink.
Well, we also have the new officer's contract as well, which is a probation for 3 months.
It was supposed to be full, but D.I. Wilson was very insistent that Pineapple Boy has to be on probation.
No, it is probation. He just wanted it to be...
Provisional?
Provisional? Yeah. It was a provisional offer of employment, and there is probation for 3 months.
He has his provisional licence in policing.
I think he's going to be quite good at it.
Yeah, they're really setting us up for him to chase someone.
Yeah.
That's going to be fun.
I know, because they kind of set that up for this episode, and then he didn't chase anyone.
He did the running.
The
zipline running.
Yeah.
There's this whole ongoing sort of tension where the commissioner doesn't want D.I. Wilson to start investigating his mother's death because he doesn't want it to cause alarm. And he says you have to wait. There's sort of various bureaucracy in his way. And D.I. Wilson just goes ahead and meets one of his mum's friends. And it causes a bit of alarm. It gets back to the commissioner and he gets very angry.
Yeah, he does.
And so there's this thing where he's not really allowed to investigate officially, and his sergeant then has to be involved in the investigation.
Yeah, Selwyn says, well, now because you've jumped the gun, you have to have a partner on it. And she's looking like, what?
So it's a good way of sort of bringing it more into the main cast.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Narratively convenient.
Yeah, nice one.
Well done, writers. Smooth.
I was thinking, well done you for pointing it out.
Oh, well, go me.
So what would you give this episode then, if you were going to rate it?
Well, I really enjoyed it, apart from Pervy Tech Bro. And I felt like I gave the general mystery more credit than you did until you explained the problems with it. And I went, right. Yeah, you're right. So I was a bit more naive, but I would give it a fairly solid 5 tech bros out of 7.
Oh my god, you're doing tech bros.
Well, it said 5 pervy tech bros.
I thought you had a real issue with pervy tech bros.
Oh, I do, but it's the most standout thing from the episode for me, and not in a good way, so...
Okay, I am giving it a 9 out of 10.
You make no sense.
I know.
You were saying it's disappointing, there's so many plot holes, blah, 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 blah. 9 out of 10. Seal of approval from Liv. The only way it could have been 10 out of 10 is if it turned out the victim was in fact a dickhead. As I really wanted him to be.
Do you want to know why?
I feel like I know why, but please tell me.
Go on, why do you think?
All of the things I just said.
Right. I've given it a 9 out of 10 because I really enjoyed it. Like, there are significant issues with the story. Yes. However, I like that it was set outside. I like that it was this game show contestant thing. Like, I just really liked it.
I like that it was set outside.
You know? Look.
That was like your main... That was your number one of all the list of reasons. One, it was outside.
Yeah, it was a nice outdoorsy episode.
I mean, to be fair, technically, the last episode was outside. That road that he was murdered on wasn't exactly under a bridge.
Well, this is like fun outside, isn't it? It's like...
So basically you're saying jungle and zipline is more fun than... Okay.
It
was a bit quirky.
Quirky! Yes.
To be fair, you do like quirky.
So I did not like the inconsistencies, but if you can forgive those and you can suspend your disbelief, great episode.
I feel cheated because I would have given it a higher score, and then I feel like you talked me out of it and then gave it a high score. I do have an important question for you to round out the episode.
Oh, right.
Would you ride that zip line?
No, absolutely not.
Would you not?
No.
I'm terrified of heights. I'd ride that bad boy.
Would you?
Yeah.
I've got a bit, what do they call it? Life preservey.
Sense of self-preservation?
That's the one.
Life preservey. Yeah. I've got a real sense of life preservey, I'm afraid. Yeah. I self-identify as a floaty device that you wear jacket.
A life jacket?
Life jacket! I self-identify as a life jacket. Man, that ruined the joke. That would have been so good if I'd have got it smooth with a capital oov.
Oh dear, I can't
So I'm surprised, why wouldn't you write it? So because you just feel like it would be too dangerous? I mean, admittedly, a guy has just been murdered sort of on it, but...
I know, because actually, D.I. Mervin, he goes down it, doesn't he?
He complains about it.
I know, even though it was his idea.
Yes.
But no, I don't think I would go down it. I've got very scared. Like, I would have done it in my youth, but now, no.
You got old and boring.
Yeah, like when I was 16, I really wanted to jump out of a plane with a parachute.
No. See, I couldn't do that.
But now, oh my god, no. I just watch videos of people doing it and I'm scared and I have to move on. Scroll past. I
talk a good game and sat here knowing that I'm not actually going to. I totally would.
Okay, when so I you get to it,
I want to believe that I would. But
like on our honeymoon when I suggested we do the zip line at the Eden Project and you were like, hell no.
Yeah, exactly. Like now I feel like I'd want to do that, but I suspect I'd be all mouth and no trouser.
Yeah, see, back then I would have done that. That would have been amazing. And now I'm like, oh no, that's too high up.
Okay, that's interesting.
Too much free flow, free fall. We've got kids. I can't leave the kids.
Well, you see, now you've painted me into a corner where it sounds like I don't give a shit. I, of course, could not leave the children either, so I will be sensibly not doing. Fortunately, we'll never find this out.
So what we're saying is that we couldn't possibly go on the zip line, even if we wanted to.
Which I do.
So, there's that.
I feel like this question has turned around and bitten me right in the arse. And on that note... That's all, folks.
If you have the time, we'd really appreciate it if you could rate and review the pod. Your thoughts and input mean a lot to us. Thank you so much for listening. Bye.
Toodles.